Welcome to another episode of the Freedom Alchemist Podcast. We're so glad you could be with us. Today we are dipping into the emotional effects of your stress. Everything that comes up with your emotions in your body and how your emotional stress can be shrinking your brain, how to do these moves that will create a state change, how quickly you can move yourself out of fight or flight into rest and digest. How stress affects not just your brain, but your relationships, your body, and how you sleep. So in this series, we are connecting deeply to the three main stressors that are at the root cause of all chronic illness. So your emotional stress, physical stress, and chemical stress, which is also considered your environmental stress. So last week we dipped into environmental stressors, and this week we're tackling your emotional stress. So have a listen, and please hit that subscribe button and share, and you can review us there on iTunes. And please enjoy this episode of the Freedom Alchemist Podcast. Enjoy. Everybody.
Hi.
You should be already feeling less stress. In the background is 432 hertz of a healing frequency that we're actually going to let it play as we do our box breath to get us started.
Now, we when you work with us, for those, so many of you that are here have, we always love to start our sessions with some form of breath work, some form of meditation, so that we can really drop into the present, the now. So many of us live in the past or in the future. We're worrying about the future, or we're like reminiscing about the past, or worrying about like what things that happened in the past. The only time we have is right here, right now. Everything in the past, you can't do anything about it. The future, all you can do is be in, the only thing you can control in this world is your emotional state of being in any given situation. And all we have is this moment. So we like to really drop in, and we also do it so that all of our clients can learn techniques for their life ongoing. And once these techniques become part of who you are, part of your identity, if we can control the breath, we can control how we react to any situation. So it's crucial to have breath work, meditation, all of these tools just ingrained in our body as something we grab for in a moment of stress. Because what happens when we're stressed? Let's say someone's following you and they're scary and it's dark, right? So all your cortisol's up and everything's up. And what do people do? They hold their breath. And then they freeze, and then they can't do anything. Right. But if you can learn to drop into your breath in very scary, intense situations, you have your brain capacity switched on to make better choices, to make better decisions. So having access to tools that help your breath in these scary situations is the way forward in any situation, any calamity, any scary thing.
And understanding how you can move yourself out of fight or flight, which is what Kate's talking about, and into your sympathetic, into rest, in digest, so that you're not feeling like a bear is chasing you all the time, which our society sort of has us set up to constantly, with the news cycle, have us always in this place of stress. And when either of these three stressors are elevated in your life, your chance and your body turns on genes and your epigenetics, your thoughts, beliefs, and your emotions above your genes, as well as chronic illness. This is at the root of just about every chronic illness is some form of stress. And so having strategies and conversations like this and coaches and having a way for you to know how to move yourself out of this stress could be life or death for some of you. So definitely,
it actually is in every sense of the word. Aging powerfully, gracefully. If you just can't do it if your body is in fight or flight, a disease will pull you down, or pain, all these sorts of things. So this is the way through. You can't get out of life. We're all going to die.
Yeah, you got to go through it. But
do you want to die feeling great and powerful and like you served your time, you had a great time, you really did it. Like you did it. You pulled everything that this life has to offer, and there's very minimal to no regrets. Or are you going to go like wishing you had more time, like upset that you didn't get to do the things you wanted to do? Like, it's your choice. It really is. No matter what's thrown at you, it's your choice. So let's get let's teach you one of these really powerful tools that you can do anywhere. In the car if you're feeling stressed, at work. It's a really quiet, calming one that you can literally do anywhere, and it's very good for just bringing your nervous system into a parasympathetic place. Super easy. It's called the box breath.
I'm going to turn this up a little bit so you guys... and frequency, just frequency healing is a really powerful... We had somebody in our program, in our advanced program, who was dealing with some issues inside of her stomach, and we found a frequency that directly heals that organ, and she was very faithful, and she listened to it, and she was able to totally turn around. Now, there's more than just the frequencies that helped her, but it helped really get her in the frequency and the vibration
of healing
that specific organ.
And this was a specific type of thing that could have led to a very aggressive cancer very quickly, and that's what it was all pointing to. And she completely healed it on her own with support of detoxification and all these other things as well.
Yeah.
But it was a powerful healing, which is very exciting.
And if that's too woo-woo for you, just know if somebody comes in the room and they have a really negative, bad vibration, or they're really upset, how different does it feel if you're in a really good place? And you can tell everything on this planet, you guys, the way the poles work, the way the sun works, the moon, communication, it's all a vibrational. The light you see is a vibration. And so we're not trying to be mystical or woo-woo. We're just actually talking physics. Mm-hmm. And so having congruency and having you align to frequency where you feel like you're actually in balance, is one of the ways to move you out of fight or flight, out of stress, and into rest. So you can use frequencies like this. You can use music. You can use your breathing. Going for a walk in nature will completely drop your body into another feeling, which is a frequency. Okay.
And then I really, I want you to have a visual to this as well. So we've got the sound, but the visual is a square, right? So if you're visualizing in your mind's eye, so it's going to be breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out for 4, holding for 4. So it's just a square. And so it's sometimes easier for people to visualize that. So this is a very simple one. There's other variations of this, but this is a simple one so that you can get this into your body and you can use it in your life immediately.
Yes. Okay. Right, so let's close our eyes. I'm going to pump up the jam here.
Woohoo! Pump up the jam.
Try not to dance too much to this track. Okay. All right. Inhale with your nose. Hold. Exhale.
And everything's through the nose. Exhaling through the nose, inhaling through the nose. And inhale.
Hold at the bottom. Yeah. Hold it out for 2, about 5 seconds.
3, 4, and then inhale.
Now inhale, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more round. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding, 1, 2, 3, 4. And just allow your breath to rise and fall in a natural way from here. And do your best throughout this conversation to pay attention to what it is to breathe entirely through your nose. Mouth breathing has a lot of health issues connected to it. So you want to retrain your brain to be nose breathing as much as possible. So for the purpose of this exercise, pay attention to your breath throughout this conversation. And if you find yourself mouth breathing, switch it up back to nose breathing, inhaling and exhaling through your nose. All right.
All right, I'm going to leave this frequency at a very low, you probably won't hear it, but it's going to be just cruising along in the background. So that you guys get to experience sort of the focus and the DNA repair and the what actually happens when these are binaural beats, so they're best to listen to with headphones because it goes back and forth inside of your ears.
A tiny bit more.
And it goes, you want more of it?
Just a tiny bit.
A little more hair on the bear?
Yeah.
Can you taking a moment to maybe pause, right? Because for some of you, life is just like a run-on sentence or a song that never has a break in the music, like heavy metal or classical that never takes a beat. And Mozart said the music is the space between the notes.
So the emotional stressor is my personal favorite. For those of you that have worked with me, you'll know that I handle, I do a lot of the mind stuff and our sabotages, and I'm just so enamored by how potently powerful our mind is. It has the ability to heal us, and if not directed in the right way, the ability to make us sick. And actually what you may not know is that emotional stressors are the result of any disease in your body. 4 out of 5 people is emotional stresses is what's caused the pain or the disharmony in their body or the disease in their body. 4 out of 5. Yet nobody looks at it. You know, you don't go to a doctor and they're like, oh, tell me about what's going on in your emotional life, or what has happened to you as a child, or tell me this, tell me that. No, they're like, what are your symptoms? Let's treat the symptoms, right? And so there's the system that most of us know. And then there's the odd person that goes to therapy, but then you drill down so hard on the problem that it creates more of the problem. So it's not all therapists. Some therapists are extraordinary. But the way therapy has been taught and set up is to just go into the problem over and over. And that creates, the brain doesn't know that the problem isn't continuously happening in that very moment as you're reliving it constantly. So we've got this breakdown in how we deal with the emotional stressors of society, of our lives, and how deeply this is impacting us. And I don't think enough people are talking about it. It's not a regular conversation. And I want to bring up a personal story of mine. In our belief, every single disease on this planet, every single mental issue, every single thing that creates disharmony, imbalance in the body and mind is due to 3 stresses.
And it's not just our belief; it's the data and the published research in functional medicine.
Yeah,
so this
but if you were a doctor, you wouldn't believe in this
unless you were a functional doctor
Yeah.
or an allopathic doctor or a holistic doctor that looks at the whole system, not just the compartments of let's talk to a heart specialist and let's talk to a kidney. Like understanding in chiropractors and functional medical doctors do address the root cause. And these 3 stressors are just a really great sort of stage to look at them.
Well, it also simplifies everything.
It really
because
does.
If you're like, oh, that's a heart specialist issue, you got to go to the lung specialist for that. You got to go
to each other sometimes.
They don't talk to each other, and so it's like you're running around and everyone's just treating their little part of that body, but that no one's looking at the whole body. And so when you look at it from, is it environmental? Like chemicals or toxins in our environment? Is it emotional or is it physical? And that's why we're bringing this, because when you can bring it to that level of simplicity and bring it down, it becomes easier. It's not become so overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
And so what it is when big disease happens in our body and everyone's suddenly unsure of like, I don't know how I got this. It doesn't make any sense. It does. It's just, especially if you know what these stresses are. And it's usually a combination of 2 stresses, can be a combination of 3 that trigger this. And so this, on emotional, I want to share a personal story of my father. He had the environmental stressor. He was working with asbestos. And so he was exposed to asbestos, but his body is amazing, just like every single person's body. And it protected him and held that, all that like chemical toxin away from him as best it could for as long as it could. And then he had an emotional stressor. So basically what had happened was my mother and father were no longer together. He dated a younger woman, as men close to their 50s tend to do. And he proposed to her, and then he found out that she was having an affair with one of his staff members. And that, I guess, emotional breakdown, that deceptiveness, that the pain of loyalty on, and this was someone that had worked for him for a long time as well. So that level of emotional stress paired with the environmental toxins of the asbestos then triggered cancer of the lungs. Now, he had never smoked a cigarette in his life. He had lived a pretty healthy life until he met this person. She also he started drinking harder liquor and living on chips, making chips at home, which is fried food, which is something he had never eaten or done. So there was several factors there that this younger person had brought into his life that didn't work for his body. And so within 9 months, he passed. Now, this is a prime example of this emotional stressor was the trigger that his body was too much, can't deal with all of this.
Right,
and that's what led to the disease. And that's why when so many people they suddenly got cancer at 30 and it doesn't make any sense. They were totally healthy before. And my father was a very healthy, very active man. So it does make sense when you look at it from this perspective. And that's why taking care of our emotional well-being is so vitally important, because there's no one on this planet that something hasn't happened to as a child, whether real or perceived. And when I talk about that, let me define what that means. So real is let's say a child, many children unfortunately have been sexually abused or emotionally abused or physically abused in some way. It's horrific. I can't believe it, but I deal with this every day when I work with my NLP clients. It's so rare that someone hasn't had that experience, or a teacher or a family member,
or
or
witnessed it or something,
or witnessed it. So their father hitting their mother, things like that. So it's like that is an actual abuse or an actual emotional thing. But let me tell you what a perceived one is. So let's say a little girl runs in to daddy because she did this artwork that everyone at school made such a fuss of, and she was so proud of it. And she
were you with a leather sofa with your
I know that's different.
That's great. Is it?
It's different. So
that's a great
she
story.
runs in. And she's like, Daddy, like, look at my artwork. And Daddy, unfortunately, in that moment, has just been dealing with something really stressful from work. He's just found out some scary news or some intense news, and his mind is completely on that. And she runs in, gives the artwork to Dad, and Dad doesn't even look at it, but puts it on the bench. And he's like, that's great, honey. Doesn't even look at it. Now, he was just in a situational moment. It's not that he was a bad father. Just that was what was going on for him right now. But in that moment, she sees this, and her little brain says, Daddy doesn't love me. I'm not good enough. And that will stay with someone. So that's what I mean by a perceived trauma.
Or threat.
And that still feels just as real to anyone. And your brain blocks out that little thing. Because as an adult, you'd be able to be like, oh, he was just having a moment, and it's fine. But your brain is still 4 years old or 5 years old. Your brain can't make that connection. And so that's why these types of traumas have us live our lives like we're not good enough, we're not valuable, we're not lovable, all of these things that we might say to ourselves. And so that's the distinction between actual and perceived, and they're both just as painful, just as triggering. And then I want to just bring one more thing forth. When we have dealt with something as horrific as sexual abuse as a child, our brains protect us, and we disassociate from our bodies a lot of the time, and the brain will block it out because it's too much to process. And you'll hear about this later when we talk about it. Your body doesn't know you're not experiencing the trauma as you think of it again. So we'll get into this later. So when something happens so young, that is so traumatic, most children will disassociate, and then it will block it from memory. So there'll be something there that they don't remember, but there's always something in the way. So that might look like they can't fall in love, they can't trust anyone, and they don't know why. And it's because this thing happened to them as a child and they've blocked it, but it's impaired their ability to trust or connect in their adult life. So we'll talk more about this sort of stuff as we go through. But I just wanted to sort of create those distinctions for you so you can relate it to yourself in whatever starts coming up for you. And just allow whatever's there. Like, don't fight. If you're feeling uncomfortable, like, go into it.
Yeah, lean into it.
Lean in a little bit
don't
to
fight
say,
for your limitations.
Yeah, what is this? Or like, why do I feel so
curious.
uncomfortable in this conversation? Stay really curious with it, because if you're feeling uncomfortable, there's something there to be looked at.
It's actually a good thing.
And this is how we heal.
Yeah.
We have to be able to open that Pandora's box. We have to be able to open it and see it from who we are today. And this is the difference of therapy. When you're in it and you're just re-experiencing, it becomes a problem. But if you can learn how to look at it, this is what NLP is. We can open it and go into that little person that experienced that very scary thing, but then bring in the person, the 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old we are today that survived it, and we can learn how to support that little girl from who we are today and see it from the perspective of who we are today, not the little girl re-experiencing it, or the little boy, right? So.
Yeah. And 50% of your memories are lies anyway, which is
wild.
So whatever story your memory, only about 50% of it is actually like really happened. The rest of it is often, the story we make up, or a perceived threat, or projection, or time. Like all you gotta do is start a line of people and tell this person one thing by time.
Well, let's say a car accident happens, right? And then the police come, or or fight or something, right? And there's a lot of onlookers, and we've seen this in news reports before, right? And the journalists come and say, "What happened?" And then this person's like, "Whoa, that was this," and then someone else is like, "Ah, it was nothing really."
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what I love when they show, like, they don't often do this because they want the most sensationalist view, but if they ask several people, they'll get several different stories.
Yeah, and that's the same way your brain works about your past, to like almost to keep you safe too. And the reason that stress is this hidden epidemic right now is that we're wired for survival, but the way that our modern life is set up, it keeps us in a constant state of fight or flight. From the news cycle, from what comes across your algorithm is almost set up to keep you in the state, because you get addicted to that feeling of rage, or that feeling of like
fear or hopelessness. And guess
isolation, or the other side, or idiots, or like whatever political side you're on, your algorithm, just know it's only feeding you your side.
And the reason it does that is when you are in a place of fear or anxiety or like hopelessness, you are more susceptible to purchase things that you don't need. Like, oh, I need this knife set. I need this, like survival kit. I need, all these
survival kits,
right? So you're more susceptible to go into these sorts of things. You're also more susceptible to just give up on your dreams and yourself. And when you're not an empowered person, you can be controlled much easier. Yep. And that goes against whatever narrative that anyone wants. When we're empowered people that can make powerful choices for our bodies, for our lives, for our families, then it's very hard to make you suggestible. So that's
right.
Yeah. And like if you think about population as a general, like if we used to be, back in the old days when religion was so strong, they had like this man staring down, judging your every move. And so people were governed in that way. But now that there's this sort of differences of religions and ideas, and there needs to be a way to govern the people, to control the masses, to avoid anarchy. So there's parts of it that are for the best of mankind, and there's parts of it that are very sinister. And it's just to understand like the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And so you can like really be empowered in your place in the world and who you are and your confidence and how you show up.
Yeah. The next part we're going to dive into is the science of emotional stress and disease, how stress affects your brain. So hang tight for one moment. So here we go.
Are you sleeping restlessly, feeling irritable or moody, forgetting little things, and feeling overwhelmed and isolated? Don't worry, we've all been there. You're probably just stressed out. Stress isn't always a bad thing. It can be handy for a burst of extra energy and focus, like when you're playing a competitive sport or have to speak in public. But when it's continuous, the kind most of us face day in and day out, it actually begins to change your brain. Chronic stress, like being overworked or having arguments at home, can affect brain size, its structure, and how it functions, right down to the level of your genes. Stress begins with something called the hypothalamus-pituitary-adrenal axis, a series of interactions between endocrine glands in the brain and on the kidney, which controls your body's reaction to stress. When your brain detects a stressful situation, your HPA axis is instantly activated and releases a hormone called cortisol, which primes your body for instant action. But high levels of cortisol over long periods of time wreak havoc on your brain. For example, Chronic stress increases the activity level and number of neural connections in the amygdala, your brain's fear center. And as levels of cortisol rise, electric signals in your hippocampus, the part of the brain associated with learning, memories, and stress control, deteriorate. The hippocampus also inhibits the activity of the HPA axis, so when it weakens, so does your ability to control your stress. That's not all though. Cortisol can literally cause your brain to shrink in size. Too much of it results in the loss of synaptic connections between neurons and the shrinking of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that regulates behaviors like concentration, decision-making, judgment, and social interaction. It also leads to fewer new brain cells being made in the hippocampus. This means chronic stress might make it harder for you to learn and remember things, and also set the stage for more serious mental problems like depression and eventually Alzheimer's disease. The effects of stress may filter right down to your brain's DNA. An experiment showed that the amount of nurturing a mother rat provides its newborn baby plays a part in determining how that baby responds to stress later in life. The pups of nurturing moms turned out less sensitive to stress because their brains developed more cortisol receptors, which stick to cortisol and dampen the stress response. The pups of negligent moms had the opposite outcome, and so became more sensitive to stress throughout life. These are considered epigenetic changes, meaning that they affect which genes are expressed without directly changing the genetic code. And these changes can be reversed if the moms are swapped. But there's a surprising result. The epigenetic changes caused by one single mother rat were passed down to many generations of rats after her. In other words, the results of these actions were inheritable. It's not all bad news though. There are many ways to reverse what cortisol does to your stressed brain. The most powerful weapons are exercise and meditation, which involves breathing deeply and being aware and focused on your surroundings. Both of these activities decrease your stress and increase the size of the hippocampus, thereby improving your memory. So don't feel defeated by the pressures of daily life. Get in control of your stress before it takes control of you.
There we go. Sometimes it's good to see a good old cartoon, just kind of
bring it home.
And so
that's a good one. It's a good one.
It's the science can sometimes have people zone out, but it's really important to understand sort of how things are happening. It's more important to understand why they're happening, but like for you to know that just by exercising, moving your body and finding a way to breathe and be still is a really powerful way to move you out of that place of there's a bear coming for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone here is in a constant state of anxiety or a constant state of stress, then you are degrading your body on a daily basis. And we're going to share with you some other ways in which that comes into your body in terms of the gut. And how that has such a huge role to play in it as well. So why don't we get straight into that? Yeah.
So this is connected to the mind-body connection, which is a silly term because your mind is
in your body.
Is in your body.
Oh, actually, I want to say one thing that video just touched on. That it's saying that the one mother rat influenced generations. This is also true for you. So we are carrying generations before us of things. So sometimes when you react in a certain way and you're like, this doesn't even feel like me, it sometimes isn't. It was your grandmothers, your great grandmothers. We can inherit these types of things that happen in past life. And so that's why it's so crucial to actually work on yourself and heal sometimes not just your stuff, but generations above you's stuff so that you're not passing it down. And even if you've already had your children and you've already have grandchildren, you can stop the transference of it onto them, even if they're already born. So you doing the work it ripples through your entire family.
Yeah.
It is a very powerful thing. So I just wanted to make a note of that before we go into the gut-brain connection.
Well, the cortisol that's increases when your stress creates inflammation, and that inflammation can be in your brain, but it also can be in your gut, and that suppresses your immune system and has you become you have immune dysfunction and metabolic dysfunction, all from stress. And so your emotional, that trauma is stored in your body, and your neuroplasticity and the power of your subconscious programming. So and then all of that, believe it or not, directly affects your gut. And your gut is where sort of the house and the home of your immune system. And for women and men, is a lot of your actual intuition is right here. You have more neural connections, more synaptic neural connections right here in your solar plexus than you actually do in your brain, which is bonkers when you think about it. And so it is really your second brain, your gut. And so stress can actually disconnect that. And then a lot of folks will have the food that they're eating, they get extra sensitive and they're allergic to things, and everything's inflaming them. And a lot of it, if you back it up, is connected to your thoughts, your beliefs, emotions, your stress, more so than that thing that you're eating.
And so many people come to us because because of weight issues, right? That's like one of the biggest, we call it a side effect. Weight is a symptom. It's not the root cause, right? So you have to understand why, because there's some people that are like, listen, I barely eat, I fast, I eat all the right things, and yet I still put on weight. And my husband's on the same diet. He's releasing weight like crazy, and I'm staying the same or putting on. And I just, and so then I give up and I chow on whatever. And that is because your body is protecting you from something. Now, that could be an environmental stressor, and we're going to go deeply into that next week of what you can do to get rid of, because we're going to go into the body and detoxing the body, and it's one of our most popular topics. But what you can do to remove the toxins. So if you were subject to, and it doesn't have to be as crazy as asbestos from like my dad or welding from Paul's dad, it can be, if you're a dentist, you're exposed to heavy metals. There's so many different hobbies or lifestyles that you would have no idea that has clogged you up chemically, that your body is protecting you from. So if you've got all of those toxins in your body's not going to release weight. That fat is protecting you from getting sick. So you want to learn how to pull those toxins out of your body so that your body then can release, right? So that's
so true. Such a great point.
Yeah, so that's a reason why you aren't releasing weight. Another reason is if you have suffered a trauma, like we all have, that you have not dealt with in any way, shape, or form. And that could be like, I refuse to speak to my father. He is an a-hole, and that is done. He's toxic. I don't want him in my life. Okay, great. We don't need to have toxic people in our lives, but we do need to forgive them. We forgive them for us, not for them. You don't have to forgive the actions or the things they did, but you have to let it go, and you have to find a way to release all of that pent-up anxiety, resentment, anger. I didn't get loved the way I needed to be loved. I didn't F you, we have to release that, because that just creates disease in our body. So
it creates inflammation, like resentment, fear, guilt, shame, that all creates inflammation in your gut.
Yes. So it's like, if you're not releasing,
just like food or the environment,
then that can be a reason. And this is why so many people that work with us, we throw away the scale. So many people come for weight release. We're not a weight release program. We aren't. We don't focus on that. But when you focus on all of these things that are creating stress in your life, chemical, physical, emotional, then the weight just falls off once it's dealt with, and it becomes easy.
That's right.
And so one of the things that happens in our coaching calls a lot is I put on a pair of pants and they fell off. They didn't even realize they were releasing that much weight, and their clothes no longer fit them because they were focused on what was actually the root cause, not how do I lose some pounds? Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's a symptom. It's not the cause.
That's true.
So you want to shift the focus of that. So many people come because of that, because we're such a society that cares about what we look like rather than what's truly going on in our heart. People don't want to know people's mess, or people's like aren't perfect. Like, people don't want to, and it's just like, we do.
Sure.
We want to know what's there.
Sure.
So there are a couple of reasons why that your body's holding on and not allowing you to release. But really, what you're putting into your body, and if it's processed foods, if it's seed oils, if it's anything that doesn't serve you, lots of sugars, that creates inflammation in your gut. And then your gut holds the most receptors, and that connects to your brain. And so that is going to create these emotions of anxiety, of fear, of depression. It all happens in your gut. And so that is whatever we're ingesting, and that can be the news. That can be friends, that can be family, that can be, all the food that we're eating, the air we're breathing, the environments we're putting ourselves. So it's everything that is coming into our body.
Yeah, and how you break the cycle is food, movement, lifestyle shifts that help regulate your nervous system. So understanding, like, your goal here is to regulate your nervous system, to have you be in homeostasis, to have you be in a place of rest and digest, or at least able to get there when you need to, because there's a purpose for cortisol and stress. It gets you in motion. It can save your life. It can help you focus and get things done. But if you're always in that place, never knowing how to bring cohesiveness and balance and regulate your nervous system, what's beautiful is food and exercise actually regulate your nervous system that help heal your emotions. Like, this thing works in reverse and works forwards. So when you sort out your when you focus on your emotions, you start to eat better and you start moving more, which actually helps you move more and eat better, which helps regulate your nervous system and heal your emotions. So this is that's what's called an empowering cycle rather than a toxic cycle, where something that's good for you feels good.
And a toxic cycle is where something that's bad for you feels good.
Yeah.
So that is smoking. Let's say, anyone that's addicted to smoking is like, they're probably breathing deeper than they breathe normally. So that is going to make them feel good. But that cigarette makes them feel like they're in control or calm or whatever. So that is a great example of something really bad for you feeling
kind of
good.
Feels good.
Same with when we convince ourselves that eating ice cream and watching Netflix is our way out of a heartache.
Right.
Like, that's what the movies have led us to believe. Oh, you can just Netflix and eat ice cream, and that's going to solve your boyfriend breaking up with you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a believed toxic thought that we believe makes us feel good, but actually makes things worse. So that's a toxic cycle.
Yeah, and that's how you break the habit and you break the cycle. Is you actually do shift up your eating. You start moving, and you find ways to regulate your nervous system. That will have you that's a really quick way for you to, that's a really great signal and mechanism to move you out of fight or flight. Just going for a walk or doing 10 air squats, doing some push-ups, eating whole food is actually a really great way to move your body into rest and digest, rather than smashing high ultra processed food and just staring at a screen. That's going to keep you in just this.
That's going to disconnect you.
Yeah.
And keep you in your toxic loop. So you're going to that's taking you away from your body, away from let's numb out the pain. There is nothing in this world that the reason we experience pain, whether it's emotional or physical, is your body is giving you signals to pay attention, right? And so I get excited sometimes when, maybe I'm a masochist, I get excited when I have pain because it drops me in, and I'm someone that refuses pain meds. Even when I had to have an emergency C-section, which was not a part of my plan. We have a podcast on this if you're interested in that story.
It's our podcast.
It's our very first podcast. But for me, and like I was refusing all the pain meds, even though I just had major surgery, and that was maybe not the smartest choice in that moment. But I do enjoy pain for the pure reason of, what do I need to learn? What is going on here? What is this? And so I will embrace and allow.
What's this?
I will embrace and allow the pain to come through so that I can understand the lesson. And we are not taught that in society. We're like, your child's got a little scratch on his knees. Give him some Modrum or like some kind of painkiller. No, allow them to experience what it is to feel pain and overcome it. And like a scratch on your knee should never be like, don't ever go. Painkillers also rip out your gut lining and then create depression and anxiety. Did you know, as a side note, that one course of antibiotics increases your ability for depression like 30%, and 2 doses of antibiotics increases your risk of depression by 70%. Now, some people pop antibiotics like it's just normal and then don't do anything to help their gut rebuild after it. Sometimes it's essential to have antibiotics. It is. And it's a gift when it's necessary. And for the most part, if you do it, you have to know how to get your body back into equilibrium, get your gut back into equilibrium so that you can avoid anxiety, depression, all these things. And so your gut can start talking to your brain in the right way again. Side note. So what do we do? What do we do for our gut? You gotta eat your microbiome, more fiber, more fermented foods, prebiotics, onions, garlics, asparagus. Like you have to bring in the nutrients into your food, and like organic food, because the other stuff is just like so full of pesticides that you don't want to deal with it. Yeah. You want to limit all your inflammatory foods, right?
Sugar, gluten, dairy, processed seed oils, any ultra processed foods, artificial additives like artificial sweeteners. Mm-hmm. You want to eliminate these inflammatory foods.
Mm-hmm. Just don't have them in your home. If you don't have them in your home, you won't be tempted.
Yeah. And then activate your vagus nerve. You can just massage right here, which I like to do. But the deep breathing does it. Rebounding on a trampoline does it. And there's a couple other, meditating, singing, or humming.
Humming for 30 seconds, guys. Let's do it right now.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Because we have so much time.
I know. Like, why not? I want you all to hum.
Feel where it's buzzing.
You can breathe if you need to.
This is why the yogis do the oming. You can stimulate the vagus nerve, which will bump you back into your rest and digest.
30 seconds. There's another little tool. Just add into your little tool belt if you're feeling stressed. That brings everything right back down.
Yes.
Okay. So what I want to go into is something that so many people are doing, which is creating emotional stress in their life. And that is we get addicted to familiar emotions. So let's say, we've all seen those things where someone has an abusive father and they finally get out of the home and they break free, and then they fall in love and it seems really amazing, and then that boyfriend becomes abusive, and then they get out of that eventually, and then they go into another one, and there's another one, and it's because they haven't broken the cycle of familiar emotions, right? And sometimes, and this is horrible to say, but it's true, I've seen it over and over again, someone that has that, like patterning can be with someone that would never think to hit a woman ever, but there's something like that triggers, like that activates both of them, and then this person that was not abusive suddenly becomes, it's almost like a victim and an aggressor. You assume roles, and you can push someone into being an abuser that maybe wasn't necessarily that way, which is wild to think about, and I've seen it happen to a good person. We've seen a friend, and everyone was like, he would never, and I'm like, I'm sorry. You can be triggered. It doesn't matter how good a person you are. If someone pushes the right buttons, anyone can become like that. Even the nicest people in this room. When you are pushed to a certain limit, anyone can become like that. And that is just a part of human nature. It doesn't mean you're a good or bad person. It just is. And like we can, like some energies do not work together, and you shouldn't. But and so that person needs to break this emotional side.
I just want to read this. So Dr. Joe explains that emotions are not just fleeting feelings. They are neurochemical states that the body memorizes. And if you repeat the same emotional experiences day after day, like stress from work, frustration in your relationships, or self-doubt, you will rewire your brain to expect and crave those emotions. Can you just read it again? Just what I just read right here.
Where?
The emotions are not just fleeting feelings, they're neurochemical states that the body memorizes. If we repeat the same emotional experiences day after day, like stress from work, frustration in relationships, or self-doubt, we rewire our brain to expect and crave those emotions. So it's not just a feeling, guys, it's a neurochemical state.
And your personality creates your personal reality.
Woo!
If you think the same thoughts, you'll feel the same emotions. This is why we are coaches. We come in and we help bring new thoughts, new perspectives, new thought patterns, so you can think different thoughts and experience different emotions, right?
Yeah.
If you feel the same emotions, you'll reinforce the same behaviors. If you repeat the same behaviors, you're stuck in the same reality.
Yeah,
so if you feel stuck, it's because you're having the same emotions, the same thoughts, the same perspectives,
the same neurochemical state that
your brain rewires, and you're addicted because that feels comfortable. So when we get used to a certain set of emotions and beliefs, we then seek them out, which is why our algorithm around news or whatever keeps us in a perpetual state of like, because we're now seeking out, because those emotions that don't feel good are now what feels comfortable and normal, so we will seek them out, so we will get more of the same, which is why so many people in this world feel stuck, don't know what to do, don't know where to go.
And you say you want to change, but deep down your body is craving the same stress, like fear or self-sabotage, because it's just what it knows, it's familiar. And so it's just wanting to change isn't enough. It's a much deeper conversation, which is what we're dipping into here.
And so here, I just want to list out the addictive emotions that will keep you stuck: fear, anxiety, guilt, shame, frustration, resentment, anger, judgment, hopelessness, insecurity, betrayal, grief, jealousy, and self-doubt. If you're experiencing any of these on a regular basis, you need to figure out how to shift those. These can be very challenging on your own, which is why we have programs, which is why we do what we do, to help people out of these and into a place of joy, exuberance, freedom, light.
And, and how those become addictive is that those emotions create a strong biochemical reaction in your body. Every time you feel them, your body releases a stress hormone like cortisol and adrenaline and epinephrine, which reinforces that emotional state over time, and it keeps happening over and over again, and you get addicted to that.
It craves, your body craves those emotions.
Those drugs, just like an opiate.
Because it's an energy burst. And so you can feel like you're feeling something, like if you're outraged by politics, if you're outraged by, oh, that girl is such a bitch, whatever, if that feels like exciting in the moment, is because you've got an energy burst, but you're addicted to something that's actually very toxic, and your body is now memorized that and craving those emotions for you to feel alive. But that is not feeling alive. That is that's toxic. So we want to give you a couple of things to break free of some of these, this emotional pain that you can feel in your body.
This is like a emotional stress reset, like a little bonus challenge that you guys can do.
Yeah. So gratitude practices. And, I've been, a lot of my clients, especially that are in this real state, I say, the second you wake up, alarm goes off or you wake up, literally touch your body. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I mumble thank you like 100 times before I get out of bed.
Thank you.
Not every day, but.
Like literally touching your body and saying thank
Hugging
you.
yourself.
Like being grateful for, imagine if you have a terrible dream where you die in it and you're watching your funeral and there's so much undone, unsaid, but then you wake and it feels very real, but then you wake from that. You're like, oh, thank you, Lord, thank you that I'm here, right? So I want that level of gratitude for your body, for waking up, for being alive. And start your day in that way.
And this is a 7-day challenge for you. Like I want you guys to track this for 7 days. Number 1 is a morning reset, this gratitude, breath work, movement. So this is the challenge. This is how you reset this emotional stress. And the first part of the challenge is having a morning reset, and that's gratitude, breath work, movement. Okay, and the second one?
The second one, you want to interrupt stress with reframing. So the minute you're like, oh, this is happening, I want you to take a moment and either do the box breath. If you watched last week's, do the parasympathetic sigh. If you haven't watched it, you can watch it in the replay.
Yeah.
So you want to use...
And the reframing too is if you're feeling anxious, you could also be like, a reframe is I'm excited. So a great way to reframe the way you're feeling is if, say, you have a heightened emotion about something, you can be like, oh, I'm just excited, rather than I'm overwhelmed, I need medication, I'm so stressed out, I'm anxious. You can reframe.
And if that feels a bit of a stretch for you to say I'm excited when you're having a panic or emotions, what I want you to do is just to say, whoa, this feels intense right now. Where is this coming from? Oh, it's like this thing at work that's about to happen, and it's really important. So you're like, oh, so I'm stressed because it matters and I care deeply.
Yeah, that's right.
And I care deeply about it. Oh, okay,
right.
So this is just because I care, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good thing. Okay.
There you go. That's a reframe.
So it's like just sometimes we just name it. We can start to shift it.
Yeah.
And reframe what's going on. It's not just like, it's like, oh, this is beautiful. Right. It matters. So you can start to reframe in that way.
Yeah. And the last thing, and the third thing, is a nightly release ritual. So in the evening time, you can let it go. You can write how you're letting it go. It could be a 5-minute gratitude journal at night, and then a nightly meditation or walk or gentle stretch, or some part of your evening that you're allowing yourself to let go. And these are 3 really great. This is a 7-day challenge, so try that for 7 days. Write it down, actually track what you're doing and how you feel.
Emotional stress can run very deep and can be very hidden, especially if it's a childhood trauma that you have repressed and blocked. You do need to locate it and find it and uncover it, and then bring the version of yourself today to that child. This is the sort of work I do with NLP, and it is the work we do with our advanced students. So if you have something, if you've tried everything and you yo-yo with dieting and you haven't seemed to find what works, and you've tapped into meditations, you tapped into things, but there's something much deeper, then usually that means you need new, fresh perspective. You need something to really anchor you into a new belief pattern, into a new, creating new neural pathways in your brain so that you can shift your thoughts, shift your beliefs, shift your emotions, and have different actions which create a different life. And that's what's necessary. So whatever that is, that's going to shift that up for you, do it. But that's also what we do. It's what we really focus on, is these 3 stresses, getting to your root causes, healing from a deep functional perspective so that you can truly have the life of your dreams, that you are open and available to do God's work, to do what God put you on this earth to do, and to live a life like you're alive. So many of us are just living on this autopilot, And that's why death is so scary. If you are scared of death, it's because you're not living like you're alive. Or you have young children. That's the other. That can be pretty scary because you want them to have, their parents. But truly, like, death is another part of this life, and it's what makes life beautiful and valuable. So if you're fearing death, you need to look at your life in a really deep way and go, okay, how do I shift this? And it doesn't matter if you're 70, 80. You can turn it around and live powerfully for as much time as you have left. And even if you're 80, you still could have 25 years left, right? If you start taking care of your body and your mind and treating it all like a garden, you could have many years left, more than some people have their whole lives. So start now. Whatever it is, start today. And that's why we always give things that you can take into your life immediately so that you can start this process. And if you want to go deep, if you want to go fast, if you want to start living like you're alive immediately, then
just get in touch with us and let's see if one of our programs, we have a couple programs. We'll see if there's something that Kate and I have put all of what we're sharing into different program where you log in and you do it and you work with people that are like-minded, and we meet sometimes every week.
We do meet every week.
Well, not in the
not in all of them,
program,
but yeah, depending.
Yeah.
I wanted to share something very quickly. I know. Paul's giving me the wrap it up.
I got the
thing.
the music. I got the music.
He's like, I'm playing, and I'm like, let me finish my Oscar speech. Just recently, so I have a sister that's 20 years older than me, and we've always been great. And something happened a year and a half ago with her daughter. Oh. He's musicking me out. And we dealt with it in the moment. We were fine. But she decided to just blame me just turned against me in a really, really aggressive, horrific way. And it didn't matter what I said or did, I couldn't bring her around. And this is someone that has a lot of great communication tools, right? And what I recognized is what was going on with her hormonally. And she said some things that most people would never, ever forgive. Like some very, very mean-spirited, horrible, horrible things, not just about me, but about our mother, all sorts of things, right? But because I have the tools I have, I was able to put myself in her shoes and able to see, oh, hormonally, I think this is what's going on, and that changes your brain. And so I just kept sending love. She wouldn't even respond to me, wouldn't talk to me. I just kept sending love, sending love, sending love, sending love, sending love. And then something shifted in her life that gave her a bigger sense of purpose, a bigger sense of being on track. And it's like she started responding to me like nothing had ever happened. Now, had I been butthurt or punishing her or making her pay for all the horrific things,
or match the frequency,
then we wouldn't have a relationship anymore. No, and for me,
you would have been in a different planet.
For me, having my sister, and our relationship was more important than making her wrong or her or being right.
That's right.
It didn't, even though I was brutally hurt by what she said, I had to just stand in love, right, and trust that when she was ready, she would come around. And she has. And it's like nothing ever happened. And I'm never going to bring it up. Oh, you were so this. I'm not, it doesn't need to happen. I know that her brain was different. She was in a state of depression. Her brain chemistry was not right in that moment. Right. So I don't need to make her pay for what she said to me. Yeah. It's in the past. It didn't happen. Yeah. And now I have my sister back, and that's all that beautiful. Matters. Right. Well,
and so those of you watching this in the future, I think that's a great story to end on. Those of you, we'll leave them in a high emotional state of forgiveness. Forgive your sister. There's a great story to end on, and here's the Oscar music. All right, guys.
Have a beautiful day. But that's okay. That's who we are. We always want to give. We love a lot. We love hard. We love big. So.
Okay. Bye, you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.